Graham Blanks, welcome back to the Running Effect podcast. Third time's the charm. Always a privilege and pleasure to speak with you. Really excited for today. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. Just another nice day in Athens, Georgia. So soaking up my last few days of summer.
I know you have had little to no off time, but in the past week, at least, what are some of the go-to off-season activities for Mr. Graham Blanks?
Man, so honestly, like right after my race in Paris, like the final, I got like super sick. I got like a sinus infection. So I've been on antibiotics. So for the most part, I've just been resting. Otherwise, just I mean, I love being off. For these, I usually take like 2 weeks off. That's what I'm doing right now. But we still sprinkle a little bit of exercise in. So sadly, still one of my favorite things to do is just run. So like I get to go out and like jog 20, 30 minutes, and those are the best. Like when you're not training, you're just doing it kind of for fun, which is something I plan on doing when I'm done running competitively. Otherwise, like just eating out with friends. I mean, that's the main thing I do. Just seeing all my friends while I'm at home, because you know the older we get, the less we all line up being at back in Athens. And then I did go to a lake nearby the other day with some friends. So did like one or two rounds on the tube and then called it a day because I don't want to get sick again. So this fragile body of mine.
You mentioned jogging 20 to 30 minutes occasionally. I know you're a man of 6 minute pace, all in the 6 O's. How slow are these runs getting? Do you get the opportunity to actually jog, or is Graham Blake's jogging a different definition than most?
No, that's a great question because I'm still trying to figure it out too. Because like when I was a freshman, we a lot of times we get assigned for active rest, which is our 2 weeks off. You run every 4 days, and you like cross train every 4 days. So like an example of that would be like run off, bike off, run off, whatever. And the runs are supposed to be 20 to 30 minutes. So are the cross training sessions. So, when I was a freshman, of course, what I would do, I'd go straight in active rest, 30-minute runs, 6-minute pace every time, just to the max. Like I just like wanted to make sure I was doing everything right. And then slowly as you become a sophomore, a junior, then a senior, now I'm doing 20-minute runs at 7-minute pace because when you get this old, you start to realize how important it is to, take it pretty easy on your body and your mind, because you really gotta be ready to go when stuff swings back the other direction. So right now, no 6-minute pace. But if you ask freshman Graham, I mean, I was cooking out 550 easy runs. So that probably maybe burnt a few matches before the season started. So not anymore.
So 2 weeks active rest going on right now. Most kids that I would talk to who might even be shooting for like All American, solid kids in the NCAA, probably a lot of them ended at conference. Most probably after the NCAA meet, you're like, heck, I'm gonna make the Olympic team, place ninth in the world, and then I'll take my 2 weeks. For you, what's the conversation with Gibby like? Is it like opening up at conference, nutty comb? I'm assuming like, dude, we've got early season meets at the end of the month. What's that whole perspective and plan like? Obviously shifting compared to most.
Yeah, clearly, I mean, my season's going to be a little different than my competitors, and then also like for me, it's going to be different. Like you said, like you have a lot of people starting in different places, like ending their season and track in different places. I mean, you've got guys in the NCAA. I mean, the NCAA is crazy because you've got guys who might not even made their conference meet, or maybe even got injured, during like indoor season. And their conversation with their coach is like, all right, let's just take couple weeks off and like let's get ready for cross. And so you've got guys who've been training for like 3 months. But then you've got the different stages of stuff who you finished after your conference meet, finished after regions, might have finished after NCAA's. We got a couple guys who finished after the Olympic trials, and then you got a couple guys who finished after the Olympics, like who are coming back to the NCAA. So, um, I mean, that's what the NCAA is kind of all about. I mean, it's not supposed to be. It's not as with the professional races and stuff. You can kind of just work your way into it throughout an entire year. But NCAA, I mean, you've got competitions every like few months. So, I'm starting back up pretty soon. Not sure when I'll open up. Really just depends on like the training. Not really concerned about performance until we really get to the NCAA championship. But it's really good to race these big races, especially go check out the Wisconsin course once again. But yeah, I mean it's really just making lemonade out of lemons. Like you really just get a new deck of cards every year and see what you can do with them.
For you, coming back after taking, roughly 2 weeks off, a bunch of the guys on the team, as you mentioned, have been training hard for 2 to 3 months. Will we see grand blanks dropped in a workout if I happen to be walking around Harvard's campus? Could this be the first time that the guys get one on you?
Probably. And I mean, I guess to your surprise, trust me, I'm getting dropped all the time. Like I've been dropped since I joined this team, and even as I've accomplished things, there's always going to be something. Before I got injured, Ben Rosa was dropping me on a ton of workouts, and it wasn't because of my injury either. It was just because he was really freaking fit. Um, and don't be and there's a couple other guys who are doing the same thing to me, so don't be surprised to see that. And it's nice to kind of start a little later than the guys because there's a few of us who really get their mileage up and then really kind of have to start hitting those miles alone at the end of like these longer regular runs and stuff. For me, I'm just kind of getting dragged into everything. I'll probably have like no solo runs for a very long time. And obviously with the workouts, it's gonna be super nice to have some guys drag me, potentially drop me. Um, Hopefully not by the middle of the season and stuff. But I mean, personally, I'm super excited to see where our guys are at. I think everyone's had some good summers, and there should be a pretty quick tempo run at camp because we a lot of the younger guys turn that into the first race of the year for some reason. So we call it the Pace Run Invitational.
Hey, any bench press midway between this race?
That's secret to the trade, man. We can't reveal that. That's how we get to the top. So we won't
All
let you
time
know our
moment
strength
last
routine yet.
podcast. All time moment last podcast when we were discussing that. Um, I still like. There's no way. There's no way. But if oh man, yeah, I gotta
You
get
got to
Gibby
talk
on
to
the
my
podcast.
coach,
Yeah, I know. I
or you
gotta
got to
get him
talk
on the
to one of
pod.
my other guys. Like, I'm just not trying to get in trouble with our coach. There's secrets of the trade.
That's true. That's true. You're loyal. You're loyal. I appreciate it. Talking about coming back into running, you're obviously the defending national champion. What was the decision to ultimately come back to Harvard? It's been a minute since we last spoke, so filling some of these subjects out that I'm curious about. Coming back to back, what's the thought process going into this final year at Harvard?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't much of a decision. I was always going to come back because, I mean, this is my favorite thing like ever. Like, I joined the Harvard team because of the team, and these are just the most fun like years I've had of my life, and it's just great to be in that team environment that you really will never be able to replicate like ever again in your life. So it was never a decision for me, and to come back and help the team like try to win like conference titles and to try to like shoot our shot at these NCAA meets. I can't wait for that, and as with that, like that's my goal and my direction going into the season, which is just to try to be the best teammate I can be, on the course and off the course. What that requires, just score as least little as points as possible. So try to score 1 point at the NCAA meet, and try to basically make our team a four-man team. And then off the course, obviously, just being good teammates and I'm just looking forward to, eating in the dining halls, traveling out, for Friday workouts. I mean, I can't wait. It's the best time of the year.
For you walking around campus, are people going to be like, "Yo, that's Olympian Grand Blanks," or at Harvard, did people just have no clue?
I think I said maybe last time on your podcast, like the best thing about being at Harvard is like there's no pressure. Like I go out to big meets and I come back and like no one cares, which is partially true. People don't really care that much as you think about stuff outside of running, but I will say that there has been a lot of support from like the school, and it's been great. I mean, the older I get, the more people I meet at the school, and the more people who like reach out to me and eat with me and tell me they watched my race or something. But I'm not the only Olympian at the school. In fact, we have a gold and silver medalist in the fencing, women's fencing. So she won a silver medal in the individual event and gold medal in the team event. So I'm not even the best Olympian at Harvard. So that's what you get when you go to these schools like this.
So we last spoke, I want to say last late November or December, right after you won your first NCAA title. Then you run a 5K at BU. You run low 13 O's, crazy, crazy race. Then, if I'm not mistaken, you get injured. Bring me up to speed from winning NCAA cross, running a fast 5K, and then ultimately that setback and how you handled it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a tough time. Obviously, like a lot of runners deal with it. I'm definitely not that special with when it comes to that. But I guess with my circumstances, it was pretty a little unique, just with how well everything was going, and then having to shut down. So, I mean, yeah, I had to. I got injured maybe like in the first like month of like building back up again. And then from there, that was in probably like February, like maybe February or January, I'm not sure. And then had to take like basically like not running on the ground for shoot, who knows, like 10 weeks. It's hard to tell with with like the Alter G like boost treadmill. We use that as well, but honestly, like looking back, you can't really count those miles because it's just like a whole different like thing. So like 8 to 10 weeks, I can't remember specifically of just no running, and it's hard not to go crazy when you have to do endure that. I spent a lot of time on the bike. That's kind of my thing when I get injured, but I tried to mix it up. I tried to swim a little bit. My girlfriend was also injured at the time, which is both nice and not that nice for us, but we were able to like support each other. Um, and I would follow her to the pool sometimes, and I would basically just go in there and like drown for an hour. I mean, she is an incredible swimmer, so I would try to follow her around sometimes before classes, and then maybe in the afternoon get back on the bike. But that was basically what it was like for 2 3 months, was just a whole lot of cross training, just trying to like not even like maintain fitness but just maintain my mind. Like it's really tough to when you have something that's so important in your life, just you have to put it on pause. So I just really tried to do stuff that I was proud of. I tried to train hard with what I had. But yeah, I mean, by like maybe April, sometime around then, I was starting to run again. um, and I opened up actually at like Wake Forest, which was a relatively like early-ish regular season meet. I was definitely not feeling good, like not feeling normal. But I was able to get like a regional qualifier there. And it was just so good to be back, just traveling with the team and like hanging out. Like I said, that's like why I'm here. It was great. Got the regional queue there, and then just things started to kind of build from there, like building a little bit of momentum. Won the 5K at Heps, which was great. Uh, Moved on to regionals, did well there, got through pretty easy. NCAA's was not my best race, but something at the very least I could take away and learn from. Had to really put myself into a situation like I didn't want to, but just knowing where I was at with my fitness and my racing skills, I just tried to put myself in a position that would best put me in the best spot at the end of the race. Um, and then by the time we got to the Olympic trials, I was feeling pretty good. That was just like my whole season. Normally I end after NCAA's, but my whole season was kind of shifted forward a little bit, just starting a little later, and racing later in the season. So by trials I was feeling pretty good. And after the prelim, I had a good prelim. I closed in a 54, which I didn't know I could do, and just barely scraped into the final of that at trials. And like going into it, you get on the start line and you look to your left and your right, and you're like, how am I gonna finish top six here? So just to get into the final was I was really happy with, especially with how the race played out, and then somehow finished fourth in that final and then made my way on the Olympic team. And yeah, I mean, and then I went, and then obviously went to the Olympics. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. Like I went to to Switzerland for 3 weeks after that, just to train even more because I knew, a lot of these guys have had like consistent training for like 4 years, and I needed to just like give everything I could to get some good training in. And so went to altitude. It was amazing, and then went to Paris and had I was performance I was pretty happy with. But you know, as any elite runner would, just not very complacent. Always looking back and thinking what could I do different, and what should I do next time to be better. So a long season, even though I originally thought it was gonna be short, but really fun. I mean, you can ask me about any of the specifics. I can go into it, but definitely traveling around a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. Got to run in some cool places and meet some cool people. Um, and I got to finish it off with a bunch of my friends and family at my last race. So it was great, and not at all what I was expecting. When I was sitting on that bike in like February at Harvard, like did not think it would end up like this.
What's the biggest lesson that you learned from this setback, as well as what's a piece of advice you would give to someone listening who's currently in a setback and maybe their eyes are towards a December race and they're losing hope that they'll be able to make that happen, but they hear your story and they're like, "Hey, if Graham can do it, maybe there's some hope now."
No, I mean you can definitely do it. I mean, it's really man, I was watching The Prestige
Great
like last
movie.
night or 2 nights ago, and there's a quote in that. I know you love your quotes. I think it's at the end one of the magicians is like, "Man's grasp exceeds his imagination." So I'm gonna pull that quote um because I remember, like when I got injured, I was like, "Well, fuck, like this is maybe I'll make it to NCAA's and just let's just see how good I can run." I was qualified for the Olympic trials and the Olympics technically, so I was like, we'll go there and just mix it up, but didn't really have much hope. I mean, I sat down with my agent, and he told me about how shoot, I forget who it was. Ryan Hill, is that a 1500 runner? So I think Ryan
Yeah,
Hill also got, yeah. So I think Ryan Hill back in his day when he was in
fireman.
college, I think yeah, exactly. When he was at NC State, I think same situation, like got injured even later than I did, like early spring, bone injury, came back and like made a world team. Um, and he told me that, and I was like, yeah, I mean, like, I guess yeah, it is possible. I mean, you saw last year Grant Fisher got a bone injury, came out and ran like an American record, um, which that doesn't really make much sense, but that didn't feel as applicable to me. Um, so like I did like even though I told you like um I couldn't even imagine ending up in Paris and getting to run in the Olympic final, like sitting on that bike. That was definitely like in my head. Like that was still my goal, like to make the Olympics. I mean, that was my whole goal even before cross country season. That's what I talked to my coach about, and like some of my teammates. Like every runner's goal in an Olympic year is to make it to the Olympics and particularly in the U.S. to make it on the U.S. team, which is infinitely harder than a lot of other like places to qualify. Um, so yeah, I mean, just not even believing that you can do it, but just at least setting, my piece of advice would just like, keep setting the high goals, because if you shoot at them, like you're going to end up pretty close a lot of the time, or at least in the right direction, which is, you can keep moving forward after that, hopefully. But injuries are tough. They suck. Don't beat yourself up. Hang out with your friends. It's just an injury. It's just running. There's a lot more to life than sitting on a stationary bike. So I think I did that a lot better this time as well. Not just being freaking miserable.
Graham, taking a roughly 3-minute break from the running discussion. Spoilers here. So if you haven't seen The Prestige, skip like 4 minutes ahead just to be safe. Thoughts on the was this your first time watching the movie?
No, so this is actually my second time. I watched the first time on our spring break training trip in Houston, and my teammate Reed Pryor like was just like bothering it. He's like, "Guys, you gotta watch this movie. It's just like the best movie ever made." And I was just like groaning. I was like, "Dude, it's 2 hours long. Like, I've already seen these Christopher Nolan stuff. Like, I know how it goes. It's just gonna be a bunch of explosions and stuff. Like, um, but it was really good the first time I watched. Like it blows your mind. The second time though, I think the second time's even better.
Yeah, because you can watch
When
it
you
knowing the end. Yeah, you pick
exactly,
up
so
on
you're just
stuff.
like, wow. And like I'm watching it with my parents, and I'm just kind of like looking at them like while they're watching it, like trying to see if they're catching on. Um, yeah, good. I mean, good movie. It did blow my mind the first time I watched it. But I still think my favorite Christopher Nolan film is Interstellar. But that's got to be second,
Okay, that's so massive Christopher Nolan fan. That is the only movie from him I have not seen, which is shocking.
dude.
But I'm
That's
waiting
actually
because
like
it comes
amazing.
back in IMAX the end of the
Okay,
year.
that's
He's
that's a good
re-releasing it,
move.
so I'm gonna go wait to see it in theaters.
Damn, dude, that's like actually a really good move. That's like holy cow! Like the fact, like how much money people would pay to watch that movie back for the first time.
Hey, I'm lucky.
So
I'm lucky.
be
Inception
careful
is
on
my
TikTok.
favorite,
No
I
one is.
think. Inception's my favorite, I think. I think
Oh,
it's
that
just
is
a
a good one.
classic.
That is a good one.
So, so good. But the end of this one, what was your like the first time you watched it when you connect the pieces
Yeah,
when the twin makes sense? People are either
yeah,
really confused or
yeah. I was
um,
honestly more shocked by the other guy who was like so obsessed with being the best magician that he was willing to literally yeah, this is spoilers by the way, but that he was literally willing to like kill himself. Like he had like 100 shows booked, so like literally kill himself 100 times in a row every night just to be the best. So it's a good critique on obsession, and maybe you can apply it to your you can apply it to your career aspirations, your running goals. Don't get too obsessed. It's a young man's game, as they said in the movie. So
I love it. I love it. Go watch that movie if you haven't. To the listener, now that we've spilled all the spoilers, if people didn't skip, I think it's
yeah,
just that's one of those movies that you watch and you're like, that was just a really well done movie, and whoever wrote
yes,
the script was absolutely genius. But
unreal.
go, going back to some running talk, so let's talk about that NCAA race, which is where I feel like you really picked up some momentum. Take me through that decision with a few laps to go to absolutely go balls to the wall. I know a lot of people admired you for that. A lot of people became bigger Grand Blanks fans that day. What was the decision there, and how much did that hurt?
I mean, it was something I've done that move for a while, like at the Ivy League level with some of my teammates. How we train, it's just something that really plays in our strengths. Just going early and like trying to make people hurt. Um, Obviously, when you get to the NCAA level, um, there's a lot of guys who can really, who would actually prefer that you do that because they're that good. And that's not to say that at the Ivy League level, guys aren't getting better and like are able to hang with those moves. So every year you got to come up with something new. But anyways, in that race, going into the race, like you just kind of are not sure how fast it's going to be, how it's going to play out. Um, Obviously, you'd like to think it's going to be slow because it's the NCAA, and that's just kind of how we race for some reason. And that's how it ended up being. So, before the race, even like a month before the race, like I'm just thinking like, how am I going to win this? Like, I just ran at Wake Forest and like just kind of felt flat. And I know that, not that my training's going bad or anything, but just the fact that, a lot of these guys have been training since indoors and, have refined their kicks, refined their strength. And I'm really just kind of clawing my way back. And, I just figured if it were to be slow, um, I could at the very least blow the entire field up and at least like guarantee that I can score some points for my team, and probably optimize like where I finish. Because I really at that point in the season I really didn't think I was gonna have it with 400 to go. Um, I didn't think I'd be able to win the race for the 400-meter sprint, and I thought that maybe I'd get I would finish not even that well if I left at the 400 because as we saw at the Olympic prelims, when it's that slow and everyone's trying to sprint, shit just happens. So I really wanted to play it safe in a way. And I really thought if I ran 57 at the end of the race, I'd have a shot to win. That was clearly not the fact. I was not prepared to win on that day. Simply put, like those guys were just on another level, and like I don't think I would have won that race. in that manner. Um, but yeah, in the end, really, it was just kind of like I was the sacrificial lamb for the pace to pick up. It's something I wanted to do, so it's not like I'm not I'm not saying like, oh, like I did it for the field. Like, no, I did it for me. Like, I did it because I thought it'd give me my best shot. And I ended up getting fifth, which like I was pretty happy with. But you know, it was just I mean, not my proudest race, but one that, you know, I am proud of myself for like putting myself into it, like where I could have really just kind of sat back and just kind of hope that I would have finished well. Um, I really like that was an analytical move, but you know, it clearly didn't work out. But yeah, it did build a little steam, and got me a little fired up for the rest of the season.
I remember hearing in some post race interview you saying that essentially you needed and were looking forward to those few weeks between NCAA's and the U.S. championships, just with your unique comeback. What happened between those like 2-ish weeks of preparation that gave you the confidence from, I don't want to say getting your doors blown off at NCAA's, but kind of, to then making an Olympic team at a higher level even?
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, like after that race, I knew like what I needed to work on, which was just my you know, my final 400, which was like kind of the last piece of the puzzle, which for me like I've been working on for a long time and have really gotten better at. But when you have a big break in training, that's one of the first things I feel like goes away is that raw um, foot speed, because you really got to be strong, powerful, and confident to do that. So that's kind of what I worked on when I came back. I came back to Athens, Georgia for those few weeks and just trained here. Had my high school coach help me out, hold the stopwatch and stuff. And there's great facilities here, you know, at my high school and at the University of Georgia. So just came here and did some more work, just did this basic stuff that I've always done, really, and just try to get even a little more fit. Um, but mostly it was just spending those 3 weeks just training and, you know, sitting in my house, eating food, relaxing, and getting excited. You know, the fire was definitely growing, and I thought I could, you know, at the very least, mix it up pretty heavily. And I was just excited to continue my season and try to improve, because I would have hated to have to end my season after NCAA's. Because that would have been a really short season where I feel like I didn't really get that much better, or, you know, if you know what I'm saying. So just came home, worked on the track a little bit, did some long runs on the dirt roads. It was great. So very good for the soul. Felt very at peace going into the trials.
For you, you place fourth. Parker Wolf places third, but he doesn't have the standard or enough world ranking points. You ultimately get the nod to make the Olympic team with Nur and Grant Fisher. Was that a call from Parker, USATF? When did you find out? What was that moment like? Obviously, you mentioned a minute ago, a few responses ago, how making the Olympics is like everyone's dream, especially in this sport. To make that dream come to fruition, what did that moment mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely an unusual way to find out for me, um, which was fun, but also kind of sucks. Kind of sucked for Parker and I, uh, but you know, it was definitely an exciting phone call. I mean, throughout that whole week, I knew when I would get the call, which was, you know, the end of that week on like a Sunday or Saturday. So I was in Boston. I was going to take classes that summer, and just train in Boston with my teammates. So after the trials, I flew back there and I had to start taking classes, even though I knew I might have to cancel them. So went to these 3 hour lectures on like
That's brutal.
calculus and philosophy. I know, right? And like I knew it might not last. So I did that for that week. And then when it came to the weekend, I knew I was going to find out that weekend. And, you know, I was really just trying to like stop myself from getting too excited. You know, I'd flip flop between like hopeless and just excited thinking about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna. I flew to Philadelphia to be with my girlfriend that weekend, because I knew I would find out. And you know, I was out on a that day. We woke up. You know, we checked the rankings and stuff, and nothing seemed to have changed. Um, so I knew, like, you know, throughout the week, I got a little more confident that I was going to make it. And then, you know, that morning the rankings updated and nothing had changed, which would mean I should be going. Went out for a long run and came back to the car and like had like a text from my agent that just said like looking good, period. So I didn't really find, and then like it was just kind of like anticlimactic because I didn't really find out till later when I was at like a coffee place. Like by this time, it's like towards the end of the day, like 12, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. And my coach called me. He's like, "Yeah, you're in. Like, we're gonna have to get you tickets to Switzerland and stuff." Because he was out there with Maya Ramsden, and so I mean, I was super pumped, and everything moved really quick. Went back to Boston, packed everything up in like a day, and then immediately flew to Switzerland, canceled my classes, and then yeah, just trained some more. And it was a very exciting time. But by the time I got to Switzerland, all the emotions were gone, and I was just back to training, back to doing what I love, and then we went to Paris 3 weeks later.
What were the emails like to the professors? Was it like, "Hello, professor, whatever. I'm going to the Olympics. Have to cancel." What were those interactions like, and
Yeah.
how understanding were they?
No, they were great. I mean, both of these professors were amazing. Like I let them know. So I had to actually summer classes at Harvard start about a like 2 or 3 days before the 5K final at the Olympic trials, which I was like, God damn it! Like, I was like, if only they started like after that, because then I would know for sure if I'm not on the Olympic team. So like, I was preparing ahead just in case I made the Olympic team. I emailed these professors during the spring, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to miss like the first week of class to go to the Olympic trials, and I'll be back. If I make the Olympic team, I'm probably gonna have to cancel. Uh, but just letting you know, like just in case. And they were both super receptive. They thought it was cool. I was running at the trials, and then when I finished fourth, I finally got to go to the class for the first time, and I talked to both of them. One the philosophy professor, the other one the math professor, and I just like explained the situation to them, how I was kind of in limbo, and I would know by the end of the week. Uh, and so like just went to class that week, acted like everything was normal, and then when I found out, I was like, oh, okay, well, now I got to cancel classes. And I just made the titles of my email, made the Olympics. That's all I put, made the Olympics. And then I wrote them a message like, hey, I'm going to have to cancel classes. Like, thanks for all the help. I'm off to Switzerland.
Take me through that period from Switzerland to the Olympics. Again, fitness is at a really good spot. You make the Olympic team, but still probably the ability to add a little more fitness, whereas a lot of people are just hanging on to fitness. What were those few weeks like? And also just from the perspective of like you and Maya, both first Olympic teams. Gibby doesn't get to coach Olympic athletes all the time. What was the
Yeah.
atmosphere like in terms of like, wow, let's soak up these weeks and these memories?
Yeah, I mean, it was in St. Moritz, Switzerland, and Gibby was out there. To be honest, we were both kind of riding Maya's coattail because she's with On now, and they're like basically stationed out there in the summer. Gibby was still coaching her, of course, and he was out there to coach her. Uh, and then I made the team as well, and I just joined them. So it was kind of like the three of us. But Maya was already with the On group, like staying with the On group, mostly training with them, except for workouts where Gibby would kind of take control. So hung out with them a little bit, but for the most part, I was just kind of out there by myself, training by myself. Um, that's not to say that like literally the entire like running world was there. It felt like every single runner that was racing in the Olympics from like the 5K and the 10K was there altitude training, um, which was cool. But it was nice when things started to clear out towards the end of the week. Towards the end of those 3 weeks, and I kind of had all the trails to myself. But it was a nice time. I mean, I just like relaxed. I read a little bit, just walked around the lake, would get dinner with Gibby sometimes, or maybe get dinner with Maya. I did have a teammate actually come out towards the end, Ferenc, who is from Hungary, which isn't particularly close, but he really wanted to come out and just see everything. Um, he was just starting training again, and when you're at 5,800 feet trying to run maintenance pace, it's not that easy. So we didn't actually do that much training together, but having him there was, I mean, amazing. Like just to have someone to hang out with. Uh, but yeah, it was such a good time. It's a really pretty city. Uh, it's very expensive. You pay for the views. Did all the gondolas, went to the top of the mountains, and went down to Italy for track workouts. I mean, it was really cool. I should have taken more pictures, but um, really for the most part, I was just so focused on training and just trying to get maximizing my training out there. Trying to stay a full 3 weeks to get a little bit of a benefit. And had some good workouts that made me feel good for the upcoming races.
Going back to talking about the Olympic trials a minute ago, and also NCAA as a whole, Parker places third, you place fourth. A guy like Nico makes the 10K. As someone who is at the top of the NCAA, can you speak to just how dang good y'all have gotten and how exciting it is to be in the NCAA with how much you guys are pushing each other? And with that, you guys are literally pushing each other onto Olympic teams.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous how good the NCAA is, and it's probably only going to get better. Especially with the new recruiting tactics from track teams, how we're trying to build track teams now, for better or worse. We're having a lot of foreign talent come in, um, and so the NCAA is just going to turn into the freaking Diamond League, dude. I mean, it's crazy, and to have that many people make an Olympic team, and that's just Americans. There's other people who I'm not sure who made teams, but it's super competitive, and if you're competitive in the NCAA, you really can be competitive on that world stage, because really the NCAA is almost that world stage. It's just we're all a little bit younger, um, and even watching back the prelim at the Olympics, super slow and then a kick finish. I mean, I credit all of that to the NCAA. I mean, that's how we race here, um, and I'm excited to see I'm excited to see what changes in the NCAA, and I'm excited to see how good it really gets, because right now there's a lot of good runners here, and that trend will probably stay the same.
So you ultimately make the final in the 5K at the Olympics. You place ninth. Take me through, the reflection. I'm sure you've had enough time to really reflect on the race now that you're, 2 weeks removed from it. What's the reflection on being ninth in the world? And also, two-part question, go back to February, go up to Grand Blanks on the bike or drowning in the pool. I say you're going to place ninth in the world this year in the 5K. Would he believe me?
Yeah, I mean, I would say going up to that Graham in the pool, like, I would say he would believe you. I mean, he'd be super excited, and very grateful for that. But he would believe you, because I worked pretty hard throughout that winter, and I did really believe that I could get back towards the end. Um, but and then finishing ninth, I was pretty happy with. I mean, that's the first global final or whatever I've done. Hopefully not the last. Uh, but it just always does leave more to be desired. It's an unfortunate fact of, like, running at that high of a level. You always see guys in front of you, and you're like, shoot, like I could do that. Like, I can do better than what I just did. But I was super happy with the outcome of the Olympics. I'm happy with the outcome of my season. And really, I'm just looking forward to competing again. And I just want to continue to compete as much as I can, until I'm done running. So really, just looking forward to the future, and hopefully we can keep the trend upwards. Although it always sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. None of this is linear at all.
As someone who raced against Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and I'm sure from behind saw him run the easiest 151 last 800 of all time, what's your take? Should he stick to the 5K, move up to the 10K, 5K, 10K, or should he keep putting his name in the ring in the 15 and trying to win global medals there? What's the Grand Blanks expert
I
opinion?
I mean, my first take was I need to level up. Like, that was crazy. So that's what I'm going to spend the next 4 years doing, trying to level up. Uh, but for him, I mean, I think for him, the sky is really the limit. I mean, the 5K clearly he's good at. 1500 clearly he's good at. I watched an interview last night where he said he wanted to have, like, every world record from, like, the 1500 up. So I would say, if I was him, I mean, you already have a gold medal in the 1500. You already have a gold medal in the 5K. Like, let's just start doing it. Let's just start trying to clear the route. Like, run the gauntlet. I mean, go back in the steeplechase. Go in the 10K. I mean, I would really try to do everything. And something I like about that guy is he seems like he just loves to compete. So who knows what events he'll run towards the end of the season. Um, but I do think he'll probably by this time next year he'll probably start diversifying some of those races he's run. So because he really has. I mean, if you have a gold medal in the 15, gold medal in the 5, I mean, he's done it, man. Like he's accomplished what everyone wants to, and so at this point, I would if I was him, I would just start trying to cement that legacy even more. Just prove you're the best. You know, he talks like it. Uh, just prove it. Like keep going.
You made an Olympic team while you're still in college. You placed ninth in the world. You've run some of the fastest times in history. Who's cooler at this point? You or Napoleon Dynamite? Your resume's building.
Resumes mean nothing. You know, coolness is just something that comes from within. So I'd say Napoleon, especially with that little high school in the middle of nowhere. So I'll keep working though.
I gotta ask you, Gibby, amazing coach. He's coached so many amazing athletes. I don't know him personally, but I've heard great things about him as a person as well. So not to discredit him with this question, but have to ask, if Uncle Rico coaches you, how well would you have done at the Olympics?
Uncle Rico, if he coached me,
Like triple threshold, what would he do? What if what are
well,
your
so we
thoughts
all
on
know Uncle
his training
Rico is.
philosophy?
Yeah, we all know Uncle Rico is really cut up in the past, like specifically high school. So I think if Uncle Rico coached me, we would have been, dude. Who knows what do high schoolers do? I don't know. Lower mileage, like did a bunch of like hill workouts or something. I would have probably done terrible at the Olympics.
He would have read once a runner, and you would have been doing like 40 by 400 until you
Exactly,
collapsed.
some stuff like that. Like I would have done terrible. But no disrespect on Rico. Like he's chill.
uh, I love this conversation. Okay, looking ahead to the future, this upcoming fall, we briefly talked about cross. If I'm not mistaken, Nico turned pro, so he's out of the equation. You and Parker, I think, are setting up to be quite the duo in cross, indoor, outdoor. What's the take on the final year, but more specifically talking about cross because it's upon us? You, Parker, who knows who else might come out, but you're the guy. You got to defend your title. How you feeling about it? Back to back, potentially.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm focused on. I want to win that title and do it for my team as well. Uh, a lot of good runners, you know, just like last year, a lot of really good talent, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of moves in that final race. Everyone throwing their hat in the ring. I'm just trying to be, you know, get to Madison on that day and be the best guy. So I've got a lot of training ahead of me, and got some racing ahead of me. And I'm just focused on being the best guy then, and hopefully our team will be ready to go. And you know, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see who's ready to challenge for the title because you know every year we have new crops of guys, and it makes for really exciting races. And if we know Madison, you know those races are always crazy and always exciting.
If snow is on the ground, going back to, man, this is dating me. 2018, I'm going to say Morgan McDonald wins on the snow. It was 2018 or 2019. No, it was 2018. 2018, Morgan McDonald wins on the snow. You're a guy who trains in Boston. You guys get some wild winters where you got to exclusively run on the tempo loop. You wake up in Madison the day of the meet, you see snow on the ground. You happy? Or are you like, I don't know how I feel about this?
I would like to say we'd be excited because somehow we always try to find a silver lining about training in Boston. I will say that's got to be probably one of the most valid if there's snow on the ground. I think we would really feel excited for that, ready for that, because we probably have the grungiest training grounds in the NCAA when it's winter. When it's the fall, I mean, dude, the running is amazing in Boston. But in the winter, you know, it snows up in Boston, things get muddy. You can't really go out and run on these dirt trails like we usually do. So, like you said, we stick on that 1200 loop on the concrete. You know, there's snow, there's salt on the ground. It's just nasty, no sun. So, we would really like our chances if there's snow, and then hopefully we'll have a really good day, and then a bunch of people will have bad days, and then we'll see where we end up. So I am hoping there's snow. I think that would be a lot of fun, especially for my last like college cross country race.
Talking about the boys more generally, how you feeling about the team going into this 2024 season? It seems like from an outsider's perspective, every year you guys build some momentum, build some pieces. How do you feel about this year's edition of the team?
I mean, I think we're all super pumped. I do like to think like the big changes for me over the past 4 years is we've gone from a team that has some really really good guys up front and like not super great depth to now having super great depth. Like I think we're like very solid compared to years back, and we've been building that depth year in year. With recruiting and then getting these younger guys used to the training. So we're showing up to school in like a week, and I think we're gonna have a lot of guys who are ready to mix it up for spots at the conference level, and then try to make that top seven roster for NCAA's. And I mean, we have big goals, and we've seen glimpses of our potential. Like we almost have a running joke on the team about finishing sixth place at Nuttycombe last year because that was almost so unbelievable to us because we historically do terrible at Nuttycombe. And so same course this year for NCAA's. Hopefully a little bit of snow. And yeah, I really do like our chances this year, and I think everyone are in good headspaces, and we're just ready to train for each other, race for each other. And obviously, with this being my last year, I'm even more invested in hopefully accomplishing some of the stuff that we've wanted to the past 4 years that have kind of maybe slipped away from us.
I believe I brought this up the first time I ever had the privilege of speaking with you on the podcast in our first podcast with each other. I mentioned the first time I ever came across the name Graham Blanks and became a fan of yours was back in the day, way back when in high school, that NXN like little log you did for Mile Split, where you talked about every single day and all that stuff. People can go back and listen to our first podcast with each other if they don't know what I'm talking about. But if I went back to that version of Graham, who was, just excited to be running, excited to be at NXN, wanted to, be an All American, chop it up with the best in the country. Fast forwarding to today, telling him, you're going to run 13 O's, you're going to be an NCAA champion, you're going to be ninth in the world, make the Olympic team. What would he have said? And how full circle is it? Just how successful you've been in your career, even though, it sounds like a retirement question. You've got such a bright career ahead of you. You've already done so much.
Man, I mean that one he would have been very surprised, I'd say, uh, compared to the injured one. So um, yeah, I mean hard to believe, especially with hard Nico buried me in that race. I really, just like I was saying with getting to race Jakob, and you watch him pull away and run like a 350 something like last mile. It was really the same thing at NXN. Watching Nico run off from everyone. It was just kind of like, damn, like I need to level up. So, you know, I wouldn't, I would have been very surprised and happy with how everything turned out towards the end of my college career. But it does, make sense. Having you hit these new stages, and you realize what it takes to be on top, and you have to spend a couple of years working on that. So, um, I'm looking forward to this last year with Harvard, like enjoying the college experience one last time because it's great. And then looking forward to the next few years where I'm trying to refine everything, get even better, hopefully, and then hopefully make that Los Angeles team and really have a good shot to do something I'm super proud of.
Graham, wrapping up this conversation, for those who have listened to our conversation today, look up to you, and I know they do because I've gotten so many DMs to get you back on the podcast. People are obsessed with Graham Blanks. What would you say to them? What's the final takeaway message you want to leave with the people today?
Dude, thank you for all y'all's support. I know I'm not the most active guy on social media, but thankfully guys like Dominic keep me in the forefront of the media. Sometimes I don't like it, but I do appreciate the publicity for just to make this my career. So thank you for all your support. I really do love seeing comments and stuff, whether it be on Instagram or Strava. Can't respond to all of them, but just know I do get to see those comments, and it does make me want to push even harder for those people that are really rooting for me.
Graham, you mentioned earlier on, you remembered I'm a quote guy, and naturally, you can't tell the quote guy he's a quote guy without him bringing up another quote. So
Okay.
was thinking since you said that, what's a good quote to get Graham's take on? The one I came up with is this. Quick reactions from you after I read it. So the quote is: "Mastery is repetition. Repetition is an opportunity to know something at its deepest level. Do it 1,000 times over. Study the intricacies that no one else can see. Embrace the dualistic relationship between you and it. The sacred process molds you and you it."
First take
First take. What's your thought on the
reminds me of a
quote?
Bruce Lee quote.
Hit me.
Bruce Lee quote. I think Bruce Lee says, "I do not fear the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times."
Mm,
So
that's
we can
good.
just do like
That's a
a
mic drop.
cross analytical like literary analysis.
I like that. I like that. That's a little alley oop for the people there
Yeah.
in Jamestown Sound, actually.
Oh shit.
Not much more to be said there. Graham, one final question for you, ending on a light note. Talking about the Olympic experience, favorite, like, I mean, they can be a track athlete if you want them to be, but like favorite athlete you hung out with or any funny stories from the village?
Um, favorite. I mean, spent a lot of time with the USA distance guys. Like, really, when you're training in the Olympics, you don't really hang. Maybe it was just me, but like, I didn't really hang out with that many people or anything like that. I will say, funny experience was had breakfast one morning at like the big cafeteria, and like Timothy Chariot just sat down right in front of me at my table. Because the Kenyans were like lining down one side, and it just happened that he sat right in front of me. Sat there for like 10 minutes eating food. Like I was like, "Is that Timothy Chariot?" And like I was trying to build up enough courage to say something. Ended up A, not saying anything, and then B, being late to my bus because of that. So it was cool to at least sit there in front of him. I've heard he's a good guy.
Potato Tim, if you're listening, DM Graham. He'd love to make the connect. He was too scared to at the table. Graham, really appreciate the conversation, man. Always such a fun time chopping it up with you. You're one of one. Really appreciate you taking the time. And man, excited to see you rip it on the grass in Wisco. Hopefully, snow's involved, and excited to see all the things you'll accomplish in the years to come. Really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.